Glistening tears streaked her cheeks as she whispered desperately, "He knows everything." Maria's fingers moved elegantly across the ivory keys, painting a melancholic melody that danced through the grandiose ballroom. Since she could remember, the piano was her refuge, a sanctuary amidst the chaos of her reality. For as long as she lived in her picturesque Italian village, the heart of the relentless Mafia world, Maria was the ghost pianista, soul lost between the notes, invisible among the infamous guests who never acknowledged her. The scent of expensive cologne mixed with the faint aroma of cigar smoke flooded the room, while the velvet drapes caressed the marble floors, whispering secrets to the rhythm of the waltz. Maria kept her head down, as she always did, wearing a simple white dress that matched her understated nature, her olive skin glowing under the chandelier's illumination. Few attended to the maiden whose fingers dared to whisper magic on such an illustrious night, the wedding of Carmine and Isabella, figures as prominent and feared as the ominous shadow cast over the Italian countryside. Carmine was a leader whose charm was only rivaled by his cruelty. Isabella, however, exuded a beauty so enchanting, it softly veiled the eyes of wolves waiting in this den of serpents. "Look at her, just as fragile as a porcelain doll," someone murmured near the bar, where laughter spilt like trickling wine. Yet Maria remained unfazed. She had grown accustomed to being underestimated. As applause erupted for the newlyweds and drinks clinked in celebration, Maria continued, unnoticed, playing life into the air. Her music accompanied laughter, mingling with deception hidden beneath the pleasantries of formal banter. The piece she played was a lullaby her mother had taught her, a ghost in her memory as much as she herself was a ghost in this crowd. Vibrations from the lower keys reverberated through her skin, almost as if her mother's arms were embracing her once more. But just as her heart began to find solace, an unexpected eruption shattered the harmony. "Play something sadder," a voice commanded, deep, ice-laden, and tainted with impatience. It was Carmine himself. His presence swallowed the light, eyes dark and predatory, locked on her like a hunter to cornered prey. Maria's hands trembled over the keys. Complying, she crafted a somber dance, compelling the room from gaiety to silence. Suddenly, laughter ceased, replaced by the rising tension of the unknown. She felt eyes on her from every corner, the dim orchidity of the room closing in. Carmine's expression morphed a subtle nod of approval, then disinterest. As tension increased, so did the colors of dusk dancing upon the chandelier. In the intricate web of solemn faces and barely masked dread, her curiosity piqued. Something hidden, yet visible only to her at this unique vantage point, Isabella's wearied demeanor flickered beneath her radiant facade. Invisible as always, Maria observed the anxiety lurking behind the bride's smiles. Intrigue fluttered about like moths circling a dim light, growing relentless as Isabella stepped near. "Your music speaks secrets," Isabella said softly, her tone tinged with a flicker of hope wrapped in desperation. Maria's heart stilled. "Help me," Isabella pleaded, the words buried beneath layers of danger only another invisible soul could perceive. The room's calm masked the impending storm. Gaze following Isabella, Maria uncovered the first notes of a deeper melody, a daunting serenade misunderstood by the crowd, but destined to reassemble the chords of destiny. The masquerade continued, but Maria couldn't shake Isabella's echoed words, her music once again harmonizing with her tumultuous thoughts, while fear snaked its way through her resolve. Yet, beneath this garment of music, a secret existed, one hiding amidst the notes and key changes. Unbeknownst to her, the resonance of these hidden undertones would ripple through the evening, leaving unforeseen waves of revelation. As the night advanced, shadows deepened their embrace of the ballroom. Subtle gestures and half-formed sentences hummed around her, foretelling the gathering storm. Her delicate fingers swept across the keys, mapping a path of mystery and unspoken language shared between them. The fragility of this moment spoke louder than any applause. Here, witnessing the strife in Isabella's eyes, Maria understood a cruel truth. She herself was trapped within these notes. Yet, in yielding to this storm, she sowed the seeds of defiance. An unpredictable twist loomed over the entrancing melody, where every heartbeat pulsed uncertainty, and each chord laid groundwork for a night spiraling from euphoria to unforeseen conclusions. Maria's focus wavered only when Isabella subtly placed an item next to the piano, a small, enigmatic envelope bearing a crest unknown to Maria. Events unfolded with haunting rapidity. Just as laughter seemed on the brink of returning to the room, Isabella's whisper broke through the illusionary peace, refracting throughout Maria's disordered thoughts. He knows everything. And with that ambiguous note, the music faltered and silence bloomed, leaving only Maria's racing heart to echo in the wake of volatile anticipation. The chandelier swayed slightly above the hushed crowd, casting scattered reflections across faces frozen in varying shades of surprise. "Find her and bring her to me," Carmine's voice pierced the stillness, no louder than a breath, yet it commanded instinctive obedience. Maria felt her hands grow cold. She watched as, piece by piece, the composed facade of the gathering crumbled. Bodies shuffled, whispers grew into thicker tension, a smothering fog that absorbed the room. From her vantage at the piano, she remained the overlooked observer, a quiet maiden amidst wolves stirred from their complacency. Her white dress clung to her every movement as she rose, the fabric as ghostly ethereal as her unexpected resolve. She knew with terrifying clarity that Carmine's command was not some whimsical trick of a paranoid mind, but that of a man cornered by doubt. Her own involvement was now intricate in a tapestry of power and deceit. As she retreated, the spotlight of inquisition passed her by, eclipsed by the swirl of urgency that surrounded Carmine. Yet his gaze caught hers in a fleeting moment, a fleeting specter of curiosity washed over by mild confusion. His scowl deepened, but he was busied by the ensuing chaos of orders and reassurances. Maria took the chance, practically sweeping herself behind the drapery's veil. Hidden from view, she allowed herself a single breath, haunted by Isabella's desperate plea. The small envelope she clutched became her talisman of hope, a tangible lifeline that promised an escape or perhaps deliverance. Courage she never knew burgeoned inside her, fueled by the inexplicable compulsion to understand Isabella's words, the need to make sense of a reality that teetered at the edge of revelation. "Why me?" Maria whispered aloud, the question directed at the envelope, her own internal struggle reverberating in the empty corridors of her heart. A pair of footsteps echoed, climbing the direction of her hiding spot. She cradled the envelope closer, listening as those steps paused, then continued past an audible guardian shielding her by chance. As she peeked through the curtain, she discerned Isabella's figure, radiant yet twisted in invisible chains of suffering, gracefully diverting attention from her clandestine adversities with laughter. Maria knew she needed a plan, something that only the maze of ivory keys had a chance of conjuring. The night unspooled like a poetic rhyme she could not escape. Each moment was a line adding to the narrative of suspense. Her fingers ached for the piano, a call of familiarity that might yet render courage from Mar's fear. With a resolve determined to unfurl the truth, she ventured cautiously, the hallways illuminated dim by moonlight streaming against stained glass. Shadows flickered, echoing the whispers of her childhood, conjuring memories of spectral tales of defiance and triumph. Back in the ballroom, a renewed clamor arose, a frantic search for whoever clutched secrets that could topple empires of silence built on palpable fear. The piano beckoned, a silent guardian anchoring her into the present. Returning seemed reckless, yet the enigmatic allure of confronting what lay within the envelope galvanized her heart. Maria's steps, initially unsteady, gathered the rhythm of her resolve. As she approached the piano, she felt the dim attention of the room slowly consolidating back to her, excited now by the promise of an unscheduled encore. The envelope slipped open easily. Maria hesitated but a moment, her fingers finding the familiarity of the keyboard, while her eyes disbelieved the content revealed under the elegant cursive. A family crest she didn't recognize adorned the inscripted letter, its lines of lineage connecting names and fates. Every string of reverence and rebellion was pulled tight, yet she unveiled no stirrings of panic. Instead, her fingers glided over the ivory, crafting an incendiary symphony of veiled determination. Notes struck sharp, laden with a story this audience could neither appreciate nor comprehend just yet. Her heart thrummed louder than the chords she struck, fighting to drown out the tremors of danger she awakened. Across the sea of disbelief, she noticed Isabella watching, Her eyes carried not fear, but new resolve, a pact formed silently over the haunting chimes. Then dramatic chords gave way to silence, a requiem unanswered by applause, echoed by a solitary heartbeat. One refrain lingered unresolved in the hallowed air, in tune with the whisper carried by uncertainty, a voice indistinguishable from her own calling out through the cacophony of evening gasps. As the room settled back into a confused slumber, Maria's eyes lingered on Carmine. He stood, an untold intensity watching over an unsuspected revelation. The echoes of what she had started were bound in their silent duet, woo souls intertwined by unrequited paths and castles of secrecy. But the night was not yet done with its surprises. As Maria sat in the wake of uncertainty, a haiku of tension unraveled before her, fingers dormant until now, producing their own melody beneath her touch, a gesture seen only by one. Yet, from the darkness, a spectral voice, familiar as a lullaby but unexpected as a storm, whispered through the drapery's veil. "What have you done, Maria?" A glass shattered, followed by a woman's scream piercing through the ballroom's facade of refinement as Isabella collapsed, wilting like a delicate flower, surrendering to the weight of her secrets. Maria's heart thudded in her chest, a lead drum synchronizing with the disarray unraveling before her. Cries of shock and gasp flitted on the edge of the surging whispers, each heartbeat a wild rebellion against the order Carmine struggled to reestablish. As the immediate chaos settled, black suits enveloped Isabella, her staggering frame held as a valuable yet volatile asset. Carmine's swift transformation from the groom to supreme overseer was terrifyingly complete. His eyes, like polished obsidian, scanned the waves of tuxedos and evening gowns, seeing everything, suspecting much. Maria remained an overlooked silhouette against the grand piano. Her presence diminished by the overwhelming stature of events. She was a still life painting in a gallery of motion. Yet internally, a storm brewed. Isabella's plea replayed in her mind, each recitation a hammer striking cold metal, menacing and resolute. Maria knew she was spared, for now, only by the chaos that engulfed the room. But this fragile reprieve was disrupted when Carmine's gaze swept over her, the contact fleeting yet electric, binding her to the unfolding narrative. Certain sights remained indelible. The slight tremor in Carmine's authoritative voice as he ordered his men to secure the venue, the glint of something potent beneath the surface replaced by Isabella's public disillusion, and the subdued crunch of glass beneath expensive shoes as Carmine strode purposefully across the marble floor. "What did she whisper to you?" Carmine asked, his voice smoother than before but carrying an underlying threat. His arms encircled a solid confidence. Maria met his gaze, a turbulent ocean of defiance boiling beneath her calm exterior. "Only beautiful things," she lied, hiding the flutter of doubt against the swell of courage, emboldened by a longing look towards Isabella's retreating figure. A muscle in Carmine's jaw twinged, then he transitioned smoothly into businesslike composure, dismissing Maria with an unexpected, almost dismissive nod. The momentary interaction dissipated, another tendril of smoke in a room thickening with intrigue. With the whispers of her sanity guiding her path, Maria sought sanctuary among the shadows. She glided past the Baroque elegance of the hall's artwork, meticulously avoiding eye contact with any reveler's probing glaze. Each step took her further from the tumultuous ballroom and closer to the caress of moonlit solitude. Once outside, the air brushed cool against her cheeks, scenting of salt and distant citrus. She was rediscovering a breath she had unknowingly held since Carmine's command had pulled her own performance into question, binding her fate to the labyrinth of his cunning and Isabella's entreaty. In the garden, she unfolded the letter again under the starbright canopy. Her eyes traced each illuminated line, inspecting its curves and characters for clues. Samantha Verisi, the crest holding veiled connections to families rooted deeply in lines of power, her heart dared to ponder. A rustle interrupted her thoughts. From the hedgerow's thickness emerged a figure, hushed and paler than moonbeams. It was Luca, Carmine's once trusted shadow, now a fracture of a man lost among his own dishonored memories. "Isabella might break free, but not from within," he murmured, voice washed with the burden of unseen chains. But knowing who they are gives you choices. Tremors plagued Luca's voice, his fearful glances conjuring shadows with their ambiguity. Before Maria's inquiry found voice, he vanished like smoke on the wind, leaving a disquieting silence in his departure. Back inside, shimmering crystal goblets reflected the uneasy order as guests returned to their prescribed celebration. Maria slipped into her customary station, fingers tentatively daring the ivory keys once more. The familiar chords transformed now, reborn in the furnace of Maria's resolve and the mysteries cradled within the ink of Isabella's letter. While her music reached languorous depths, an equal current of declaration pulsed, burning softly beneath the benign adagio. Maria played notes stitched into destiny, each octave an invocation of Isabella's plea, Luca's warning, and Carmine's inquiry. Inside this web of sounds, truth resonated. Isabella was more than the victim of circumstance. She played a calculated game, fighting against the same institutional diadem Maria found herself trapped within. In the center of these orchestral compositions, Maria contrived a plan, a tempo twist as intricate as the grand waltz masking her world. As the night deepened, casting its velvet mantle over the opulent affair, Maria knew she would need allies even from unexpected quarters. Her fingers faltered, uncertain at whom they might reach. When the final notes echoed, a shadow near the back slipped away from crate and barrel masquerade, just as Maria adjusted the tempo, rekindling the room's descent into sultry deception. Maria's sight snagged on someone distinctly apart standing just within the ballroom's grandeur, a young guard dismissed as ancillary. His eyes locked with hers, empathetic and familiar, with a silent promise bound by mutual recognition of an unseen weight carried in their proximity. She offered a subtle nod, a gesture both insignificant and monumental, hoping its meaning was clear. The evening's echo retreated with her in its embrace. Yet even in its finality, Maria felt the harbingers of dawn weaving through her resolve, unraveling the uncertain tapestry of fate she would yet rewrite. The room settled once more into basked silence as she closed the piano softly. Then came a voice devoid of warmth but alight with expectation, reverberating from the shadow-tainted canvases behind her. Do you know the cost of secrets? If you value life, you'd best tread lightly. The whispered warning buzzed cold in Maria's ears, lifting the hairs on her neck as the words dissolved into the palpable silence. Maria's fingers lingered on the last note, the echo unwillingly accompanying the suppressed memories she had tried so hard to silence. A heavy tension strained against her brow as she met the curious eyes dissecting her presence. In the dim light, her olive complexion absorbed the hues of twilight, creating a watercolor of shadows across her steadfast figure. Maria, the dismissed pianist cloaked in anonymity, found herself curiously caught in a game becoming dangerously personal. Her senses honed in as the scent of cigar smoke mingled with the wafts of extravagant dinners, reminding her of a past inked in smoke-streaked secrets. Only now, the crisp flavor of pending turmoil enhanced the air winds, heralding the fragile balance strung between control and chaos. It was Luca, punctuated by his lean shadow against the wall, betrayed by a face that had weathered beyond its years. With a hesitant nod, he lingered briefly in her zone of constrained safety. He has eyes everywhere, but some darkness. Luca paused, casting a weary glance behind him. Even it fears. The conversation, veiled in riddles, fanned unease across Maria's heart, yet Luca's retreat was swift, his form melting into the congregation beyond. Pressure mounted from the crowd's halcyon eyes, their curiosity lighting an unyielding flame poised to consume her fragile secret. Maria understood that she, a humble ghost among rapacious lions, had stirred the pot of uncertainty. Observing Isabella's gilded cage from afar, draped in tragic splendor, Maria discerned a sorrowful bravery that spurred her own resolve. Despite the persistent murmurings that rippled through the room like a tide, Maria grasped an invigorating truth. Anonymity was no longer her ally. Though she appeared fragile, the melody from her mother's lullaby hummed steadfast within, gathering courage like storm clouds darkening the horizon. Yet not all watched with blatant suspicion. Over amongst the ornate, diamond-lit chandeliers stood the younger guard Vittorio, positioned steadfast yet unnoticed, bearing witness to her silent tale. Their unspoken connection tethered them to a shared cause that resisted Carmine's vice grip. Amidst this labyrinth of allegiance, the question repeated itself. How could she, with her music and penchants edged in silence, possibly tip the scales against the vaulted tormentor that was Carmine? A somber chord summoned her fingers back, composing a complex ballad resonant with defiance and longing. Christian, one of Carmine's steadfast lieutenants, approached each step, orchestrating his unsought synopsis of her disposition. He grinned thinly, shadows accentuating his angular features. Carmine finds it curious that the pianist elicits the bride's collapse. He paused, smiling slyly as though privy to untold truths. Deliberation can be a sly symphony. Mind your keys. His words dripped with both caution and provocation, a dance Maria knew would only end upon the edge of muted desires. As Christian glided back into the pulsating gathering, Maria waited each breath taken, conscious of the unsanctioned attention hitching a ride on her actions. Whispers navigated the boards beneath delicate feet, threat and comprehension interwoven into their fabric. Each note mirrored her inner storm. Desperately seeking clarity, she held the folded paper tucked securely, something Carmine's world failed to account for, the power housed in innocence, cloaked by deception's veil. Uncertainty lay ahead, obscured by intangible greed and the broken vows binding Isabella untimely beneath her veil. Maria persevered, visualizing Pietro's timely encouragement, whose youth betrayed a wisdom etched deeply within. They didn't speak, not truly, but silence became their lingua franca, forged in battles unseen. The night evolved a phantasmagoria spliced by light and shadow, reality and illusion. And Maria, with each strike of ivory, told a narrative of rebellion masqueraded as harmony. Resilience called, Twilight's courage solidified. Isabella, poised like an intricate puzzle piece, now signaled for Maria to approach. Her eyes held a knowing melancholy, backed by a pulse of hope. Finding a real escape requires more than strings and willows, Isabella intimed softly, entrusting Maria with a perception dull to ordinary cymbal clashing. In heartbeats brief, secrets passed unseen between present ears. Isabella's fleeting nudge toward a concealed ally left Maria breathlessly intrigued, fortified with an assurance unseen. An unbidden alliance courted the unforeseeable horizon, a stretch where danger and salvation danced relentlessly around the chessboard of fate. The evening coasted toward climax, perched precariously upon a precipice engrossed with lavish exuberance, Carmine himself a conductor orchestrating puppets to his wrathful score. Maria set free consonants, a haunting hymn, unyielding to the oppressors lined with unstructured idolatry, shimmering their illusions stark against the backdrop. The garden now beckoned her like an old friend, offering calm serenity beneath the vigilant moon. Engulfed by faded blooms whispering tales eternal, she unwound. A bitter wind initiated its song, scraping across the garden's edges. Abruptly, dark patches marring the trimmed hedges caught her eye, unveiling gnarled roots hidden beneath veneer. They secured believability, with each twig snapped beneath foot, while hope twirled through tensions composed of question and coercion. A realization dawned heavy. A sanctuary lived beyond nature's design, threading Maria's hope into a tangible path. Her resonance spiraled, whispering beneath the surface with the clarity of unsung truths. Secrets kept like shadowed heartbeats draw inevitable costs, Maria. Isabella's voice, a memory-turned prophecy, echoed resolutely. A falcon's cry punctuated her swirl of thoughts, piercing the night, casting its shadow across her reflection. The echoes of past choices reconciled with paths yet traveled, spinning wheels of fate now firmly within her hands. Rising to meet the quivering pitch of destiny's song, Maria held certainty's hand tight as the final strains settled into an waiting tremor of silence. Her resolve suspended a solitary figure caught between veiled earth and distilled heavens. Then from untamed shadows, a rustling, tangible against the breath of suspense, fractured into a gentle whisper. By whose choice do we learn this? The implications it knitted into that singular, tension-laden question hung heavily, an unforeseen answer scripted into the fingers of fate yet to unfold. Isabella's lifeless body grew colder with each passing moment, an unsettling reality the room tried desperately to ignore amidst the fragrant haze of roses and lilies. The piano stood silent, forgotten in the corner like a faithful but obsolete servant as voices crescendoed, spilling with panic and desperate plans. The scent of blood, metallic and oppressive, hovered thinly over the chaos. Maria could barely breathe as she wove through the throng of people, her heart sinking with the frantic pulse of fear woven into the air. Her pale fingers, trembling slightly like the hesitant flicker of a candle flame, clutched the incriminating letter close, pressing its secrets tightly against her chest. How had it come to this? She was a ghost once, blessedly invisible, but now she bore witness to treachery she had never imagined. Maria's modest white dress, a stark contrast in this world of opulence, seemed to blend her both into and out of existence. Where silence had been her ally, now each breath felt like an act of rebellion. "We need to move," Vittorio's voice cut through the oppressive weight around her, a lifeline in the madness. The young guard's eyes, earnest and bright, reflected genuine concern tangled with the promise of rebellion. It was a comfort she didn't anticipate. Maria nodded, words failing her. A primal fear clawed its way up her throat, threatening response with a timidity she refused to own. The room buzzed around them, a frenetic hive bound to cannibalize itself. She caught fleeting glimpses of Christian's scrutinizing demeanor, now laser-focused on her, a vulture shadow against the chaos. Carmine's voice, the one once capable of charming thunder from silence, was now a low but forceful drone as he demanded compliance, answers, obedience. Each syllable held the sharpness of a blade, yet Maria felt an unfamiliar spark of defiance. Maria's fingers found the keys, a comforting relic of defiance disguised in elegance. The music poured from her fingertips as if summoned by the unrest turning worlds within her. Each note an invocation, a silent challenge sung into existence, daring the powers binding them to listen. "Do you know what she meant, do you?" Christian's voice was a whisper in her ear, a snake in silken folds. She met his gaze head-on, the air between them heavy with unspoken tensions. "The truth is its own keeper." His laugh was a dark ripple, cynical yet impressed. "You may underestimate Carmine's desire to unweave that tale." But he lingered as though tasting uncertainty for the first time. Pressure wound tightly as the piano's resonance faded, leaving an echo that threatened to fracture under its weight. A metallic clang rang unexpectedly, and the entrance, once filled with a parade of extravagance, suddenly barricaded by a wall of armed loyalty. Carmine's featured lieutenants moved, fluid as ink, in their dark suits, isolating the crisis in the conspiracies crafting within. Luca, frail yet resolute, emerged from the shadows adjacent, casting a furtive look of warning at them both. It's too late to unravel this web. Disquiet etched itself around Maria's resolve, yet synchronized with the Mavericks watching. Her heart doubled in dedication, aware that surrender wasn't an option her spirit entertained. With breath short in her throat, Isabella's confided suspense found new rhythm in Maria. Though her senses screamed to flee, the cryptic boldness emboldened within fled to something raw purposeful. Disregarding tradition, Maria abandoned her seat poised at ivory keys and fled into the room's concentrated stillness. Every muted footstep bridged distances fair and familiar. Hermetically sealed in the moment's quiet, the ambient noise reduced to suspenseful breaths, synchronizing between her and Vittorio, confidences exchanged without syllables, a language unspoken, but not peculiar to kindred souls. The envelope's secret situation bathed her skin in a frost thread-laden with destiny. Romanov, the words stitched with power and persecution, promised the median between opulence and mass destruction. Unfamiliar paths etched by footprints unseen led Maria and her newly secreted companions to the garden's obscured recesses, untended but prosperous, with promises untold. "Does Isabella know?" Maria ventured, her voice woven tightly by tension, yet hope unpoised. Luca's breath, a feeble thing between cracked lips, held obscure truth aloft like a crown upon closeted chords. His nod spoke the language of invisible alliances, nuance construed through the muslin confusion. Fear, once a whispered shade among shadows, now denoted allegiance retained without the need for oppressive sustainment. But Carmine would not be swayed by abstraction, a thorough scholarist in his compunctions tied in opulence. Keep moving, keep silent. Vittorio gestured beyond, leading them towards shaded paths, brushing against legends sketched within secrecy's tender weave. The scene swelled in murk and shallow silhouettes, pockets of moonlight elucidating the map Isabella had provided on Maria's reticence. Candles flickered, enduring symbols doggedly battling dispersions. Shadows discursively crisscrossed pathways marooned in moonlit glow. As they stole into darkness, circumventing the swaddling cloisters manipulating their fate, Maria felt the grit encapsulate her journey, an initiation of the unresolved, perhaps. Her palm, clutching the letter, felt the tremor of a page revealing the seal, both pledge and prison, spoken in solemn vows consigning belonging as salvation. Carmine's voice rippled, unwelcome but anticipated, shadow among consecrated oaths, an interloper confined by vigilant whispers, sung only to the wise. Maria lingered only momentarily, counting friendships forged under the twinkling vault of skies. Then she pressed on, the night breathing more promise with each clandestine step. In the potent mesa of coming dawn, Maria's resilience twined with the electric magic of newfound companionship. A rustling from the sanctum of a trello pierced the misty scape, profound, ponderous, pregnant with portent. Will you pay the cost we speak of now? Smoke wafted from the scattered candles, winding into the air in languorous tendrils. A sudden gust of wind dashed through the garden, extinguishing them one by one, leaving charcoaled embers in their wake. In the midst of breathless shadows, Maria finally understood the cost of secrets was more than she had anticipated. The world seemed to sleek back to velvet darkness. Swathing the unassuming textures, Maria noted the guttural rustle of leaves, the faint perfume of distant orange blossoms intertwined with night's cold bite. Her dress clung to her frame, moss and earth mingling along its hem. Vittorio was close now, a sturdy presence against swirling uncertainty. His own movements were cautious, born from knowledge that shadows can betray as much as they cloak. They'll seal every exit. His voice was low, a hum carried by urgency. Then we carve new ones, Maria replied, tension weaving her words, steeling her against what might follow. The garden, once a peaceful sanctuary, now teetered on the brim of something dangerous and daring, complicit in witnessing all that unfurled. The gathering of allies against a common adversary fell to undetectable whispers, and for Maria, a tale unfathomable seemed nearer reality than ever before. Christian, ever watchful, was not far. A separate figure altogether yet interconnected to the drama, coiled tight and poised for moments to intrigue. His interest lay beyond professional courtesy, a vested intrigue as translucent as the night was opaque. Within him flickered an insidious curiosity that anticipated the denouement with anticipatory pleasure. He wants you to perform, doesn't he? Christian's demeanor bore both caution and an undercurrent of recognition, palpable despite the distance. Maria paused, reflecting unease but not unreadiness. And when you hear it, will you add your notes? His laughter was like glass breaking beneath velvet curtains, sharp and threatening but ultimately veiled. Maybe I will, he mused, the gleam of calculations written across his brow, framing his eyes with scrutiny. Pressure squirming through the fine lines of formality and doctrine, expanded like a lung inhaling cold, slicing air. It rooted itself into the evening's nerves, an entity evolving from whispers into a formidable unease. Inside, the ballroom bustled on, filled with false faces and shifting allegiances, stagnant suspicion masked beneath jaded refinement. Maria felt the tension bore through her skin like the moonlight that occasionally radiated through the encompassing ether. Returning from the garden, her fingers itched for the piano, an ally in silent war, its weight familiar like a lover's touch amid the swirling disarray. Vittorio slipped in behind her, a specter unnoticed by those with eyes elsewhere. We're running out of time. Maria nodded, understanding his concern and the implicit warning mingling between syllables. They'd composed a common understanding, notes trapped beneath corridors. As she moved mechanically toward the center of the room, Maria became uncomfortably aware of the eyes that followed her, the quiet that spread like oil upon water. Carmine commanded the room with a presence as tragic as it was magnetic, casting a long darkness despite the opulence surrounding him. His words, though unspoken, echoed through the grand space. She sat, positioning herself, collecting her breath and resolve with urgent determination. Every key press inoculated her courage, infection morphing into solidarity. This would be the beginning of her countersection, not merely survival's symphony. Maria's first note broke the silence, a rumble that swallowed trepidation whole, each passing measure building like the searing rise of waves onto shore. Christian, straddling the boundary between participant and bystander, recoiled at the raw majesty springing forth from the evening's uncertainty. She progressed, wavering none in her performance, music unfurling across their captive audience, seeming less crafted than conjured from haunting truths. Each rising chord mirrored new intensity drawn forth from Maria's heart, yearning, longing, determination. The notes questioned as much as they challenged, denying pause, denying regret. As they rung completed, in illusory silence, the precursor to revelation, swept like shadows. A roar that began softly, a murmur increasing from the dark, bloomed around them in unison, captivated by the undercurrents cracking perceptions rigid. The air itself pushed Maria deeper, propelled by force beyond prescience, Maria and her music, bound by a shared covenant untamed in the paradox beneath. "Do they bow to you, Carmine?" she murmured, uncharacteristically brazen, the spat challenge a dare hidden amidst harmony. He didn't meet her taunt with hostility, but amusement. "They follow the tune set best," he replied, intrigue thickening the tension. Maria, fueled by fresh insights surrounding bonds, camouflage. Lost hopes, yet unearthed, imbued her with bravery. "Then you'll enjoy this." Her voice carried across the intertwined subtext, thickened by his acknowledgement of truth spun freely. Beyond, whispers curled clandestine, driven between dreamer and damned. Through labyrinthine paths unseen, Maria led her cohorts into a tale untold, where perception and conviction traded in shadows. Maria uncloaked the melody, trembling beneath vows spoken in ruinous whispers, unfeigned sincerity bringing truth from dust. Luca and Vittorio formed the outer bastion, boundaries forged through woods sprawling, defiant yet challenged like embers born out of gilded cinders. Their journey saw elders forgotten, seeds scattered and reclaimed from silence, every touch and articulation framed by voice beneath. In the vast playground of error yet accounted, where crescendos rose as breakers before violence unsated. In those final notes played unwaveringly by resignation's muse, Maria found resonance. The unraveling unfolding burst forth upon the calculated void. "Do you follow the music, or is the music following you?" Christian's voice escaped, trailing an unrepentant question encompassing reflected existence, a conundrum laced with promises still hidden, endemic to unread tomes. Before her answer found voice, silence reigned regal, an imperative preparing the yield of further evanescence. The crush of darkness pressed against Maria's senses, swallowing her form as she stumbled through the foliage. Branches clawed at her skin, leaving trails of crimson upon an ivory canvas. Each jagged breath birthed clouds of mist in the chilling air, her heart beating a frantic staccato as if it danced to a melody only chaos and desperation could create. Huddled beneath the twisted arms of ancient olive trees, she was a fractured piece of alabaster in a tempest of shadow and moonlight. The envelope, a tangible liability clutched against her chest, promised salvation or ruin. "Maria," a whispered breath rasped through the darkness, catching on the wind like the flicker of a candle flame. Vittorio emerged, his silhouette a guarded sentinel. The dim light caught his earnest expression, sparking determination in his gaze. "You must decide. Now." Her mind wove threads of terror and resolve, desperately seeking clarity from a tapestry seemingly woven by madness. In this world marred by secrets and suspicion, her former existence as a mere observer had been shattered, replaced by a role inscribed with newfound defiance. Maria's fingers brushed the rough bark of the olive tree. The texture grounded her in this maelstrom of uncertainty, the coarse reality anchoring her to decisions yet untaken. She gave a barely perceptible nod, steeling herself with a breath sucked in through teeth clenched against the chill. "We use the diversion," a voice interrupted, a smooth blend of authority and steel. Christian stood partially hidden, his shadow undulating along the ground as if entangled with his intentions. What makes you think he will stick to the plan? Maria's question held no naivete, only a pragmatic doubt seasoned by truths unyielding and bitter. Because predictability is his brand of chaos, Christian replied, an edge sharpening the promise behind his words. And it seems we might be in tune more than we realize. Maria knew the stakes of symphony set to explode upon the arranged culmination of deception, the clangor of actions destined to topple the towers of power she once played beneath. Inside, Carmine's voice cascaded, a river of commands sharpening the room into a symphonic battleground. Allies mingled among enemies, silent orchestrations suspending participants like threads captured in amber. She positioned herself once more at the piano, fingers hovering, waiting for the confluent chaos to spiral towards inevitable crescendo. A deep inhale initiated the overture, notes blossoming across the gathered assembly, steeping the atmosphere in the richness of defiance and sovereignty. Carmine, from his vantage, prowled the margins, an overseer masked in authority and charm. His form was an apparition against opulence, a monarch presiding over the kingdom of masquerades. The melody rose swift as a dancer, daring as revolution. It transformed the ballroom into a cathedral of sound, the echoes clutching at every heart and breath. Yet it was the envelope Maria clutched furtively that carried the true note in unseen harmony destined to alter the dance. Christian, his own role sketched in shadow, sidled near. His movements was as stealthy as a conspirator's oath. "Careful with your accompaniments." His murmur directed into her ear was both cautionary and conspiring. "They're the crescendo," Maria managed, voice woven with determination. "And gratitude will come for those who listened." Her resolution unwavered, set through every octave she tactically deployed. The notes now wielded revealed truths. Adriano's brutality threatened to crush beneath the weight of collective expectations. As the piece wove its inevitable path, eyes closed around smoldering secrets began to flicker with nascent understanding. Darkness is shifting into something new. The music commanded their pulses, unraveled the tapestry of pretense like thunder preceding a storm's release. In the swell, Isabella made her presence felt a ghostly apparition, igniting intensity amidst gilded dupes. Her part foretold not veils and defeat, but choices reverberating across their captive hall with unexpected power. For Maria, simplicity reigned where plans intersected. Uncover the illusion while holding the facade. With inevitable finality, silence fell, a curtain drawn swiftly upon the spell of Maria's cadence. Resolutions paired with hesitated suspicions broke the chrysalis of falsehoods. "Why should we follow?" Christian queried, a newfound respect shadowing his skepticism. Maria simply smiled, compassion and conviction etched upon features once considered demure, now sovereign. Truth follows where shadows fear. Her reply drew tight like the bow upon an origin's gift. Beyond, Carmine reclined, less convinced yet integrally entwined within strands of uncanny prophetic subversion. The hostility subsided as dawn crept forth, seeking repentance, inviting rebellion, like a rain drumming delights unforeseen. And Maria, clothed in audacity's armor, heralded not ruin but reinvention, warmed by twilight's ascent. Then from behind, Vittorio's measured steps signaled movement. His murmur of acceptance woven into the fabric of the escape stitch spoke. "Are you ready to finish what began?" Isabella's voice, though silent in the living world, seemed to resonate within the haunting strains Maria conjured from the piano. The lilies that adorned the ballroom had withered, their scent now a bitter reminder of promises unfulfilled. A chilling gust ghosted through the open windows, swirling the air with whispers of intentions unspoken and secrets best left buried. Maria stood at the precipice of a transformation she hadn't sought but now embraced. Her fingers hovered over the keys, her determination solidified amidst the echoes of disbelief. Vittorio and Christian lingered nearby, both harboring their own secrets, their loyalty fragile yet palpable in the charged atmosphere. "What's your next move?" Vittorio's voice was a thread of calm, weaving through Maria's tangled thoughts, a beacon as the ripples of chaos threatened to overtake them. She glanced at the letter, its wax seal unbroken, yet its weight undeniable. Her journey had been one from shadow to substance, the faintness of her own resolve now a guiding star against the obscurity. Maria's fingertips brushed across the keys, releasing notes that carried the spectral essence of Isabella's plight, a yearning cry for liberation. In the background, the silhouettes of Carmine's forces melded into the tapestry of unrest that wove through the room. Christian, too, watched, his interest piqued by the shift in narrative. For once, the glint of calculation in his eyes was softened, replaced by something akin to wonder. Yet the growing awareness of impending danger drove Maria's actions now, a measure of grace undercut with defiance. "He'll lead them to ruin," she muttered, the truth of her statement given weight by the haunting melody she crafted. Christian approached, the fringe of his shadow merging with hers over the polished veneer of the piano. "And what of your promise, Maria? Will you deliver them or yourself?" His words were delicate across the tension, a question bound by recognition. Maria met his gaze, her smile a quiet revolution. "My promise was to a friend, not a tyrant." A sudden movement, a flicker of change from the far side of the room caught their attention. Carmine stood, a looming figure wrapped in authority and poise, addressing the gathered throng with words marinated in manipulation. "Loyalty," Carmine intoned, his voice a sonorous command that hovered just above the melodious strains, "must be proven beyond doubt." The overhead lights glinted against his tailored suit, a whisper of the unyielding control he sought to maintain. Behind him, throngs of guests hardened their expressions, eyes darting amidst allies and enemies blurred by circumstance. Maria felt their unease, the desire for clarity, yet the fear of truth. "An opportunity, then," Maria whispered. The promise of reckoning silenced against the gentle tones now dancing like specters in the room. She played on, her resolve deepening with each breath. The piano became an extension of her very being, an oracle in weathered finery, revealing tales of longing and liberation. Notes cascaded like tears, drawing every hidden emotion from shuttered hearts. Vittorio, who had slipped into the shadows, now reappeared at her side. "We move when they can see nothing but the music." "A gamble," Maria remarked, her voice steeled by intention. "But the only chance we may have," he replied, the sincerity strung between them, a lifeline grasped in midnight's embrace. With a crescendo, the music surged, flowing like water through the gates of understanding. The room bent beneath its weight and alchemy of sound, turning suspicion into contemplation. Meanwhile, roughened voices rose, murmurs collecting amidst the crescendo's sweep. Maria caught the trace of words exchanged, resides, chafing against the program dictated by Carmine's decorum. The stage was set. Maria stood, allowing the last note to linger in the air, a phantasmal echo of resolve. She turned, aware of the tapestry she had woven, the fabric now shimmering with potential reclaimed. Carmine acknowledged the silence, his gaze falling upon Maria's unyielding form, the words unspoken, shared between grandeur's anticipation. "The truth is, it will always play a note," Maria said, her whisper resounding through halls where shadows danced with light, a promise cascading like water over heights it dared to defy. The plan unfolded with painstaking precision, the ballroom a canvas alive with tension. Vittorio, confident in their convergence's direction, slid through the unrest, each subtle push a warning, each hidden smile a testament to alliances forged under duress. Outside, stars blinked in the firmament like silent witnesses to the drama below. Isabella's absence was felt in the whisper of the breeze through the olive branches, a sigh as eternal as it was hopeful. Christian took a step forward, the hall's latent energies coiled tightly around him. "You know they won't stop. Not for you or this." His warning was gentle but edged, its meaning clear. "Then every story will remember it differently," Maria countered, voice unwavering even as her heart skipped beneath the weight of what they had begun. The door, once a shield against the night, now beckoned with a determined finality, the hinges creaking with the chorus of fate's song. With one last glance shared among unlikely allies, Maria embarked into the twilight a new era, on the edge of her fingertips, a history on the brink of reinvention. From behind an ochre shadow moved, hesitant yet determined. "Will you meet them at dawn?" the figure asked, leaving the question to hang suspended in the chill of the night. Maria's breath hitched as the envelope slipped from her fingers, whispering secrets as it cascaded to the polished floor, unnoticed amidst the crescendoing chaos. From the moment Isabella had fallen, the ballroom had transformed from glamorous festivity to macabre curiosity, stage set for a tragedy. Now, echoes of suspicion and urgency reverberated through the damp corridors, the scents of roses and regret mingling over hushed conversations and furtive glances. Maria stood motionless near the piano, her dress a simple white sheath that belied the storm gathering beneath her calm exterior. Her olive skin glistened in the dim light, eyes shadowed by the burden of what she knew. In the menagerie of the Mafia's grandeur, she remained the invisible thread weaving fate's tapestry, her music the only voice granted legibility. "You'll want to take that," Vittorio advised, emerging from shadows, his presence familiar yet disruptive. He nodded toward the fallen envelope, its weight a silent testament to the power cradling between thin layers of parchment. "Does it ever feel like a dream?" Maria whispered, her question blending into the echoes of distant, hushed laughter, the gentle clinking of glasses still insisting upon festivity. "Or a nightmare," he replied, his gaze holding the resonance of shared secrets, acknowledging the tightrope they walked in the dance of shadows. Underneath the facade of smiles and toasts, pressure mounted with each tick of invisible timepieces. Christian stood aloof, a languid figure whose confidence hosted the cynicism and latent power of a man unable to detach from his spectral chains. Across the room, Carmine held court, his jovial demeanor a deceptive veil that masked the hunter beneath. With a subtle nod, Christian set the machinations in motion, echoing gestures as rehearsed weapons. Attention shifted like sheep amidst wolves as Maria sought the stability the piano offered, her fingers poised to manifest their symphonies of subversion. She met Carmine's calculating gaze, her defiance shimmering like the trembling glint of uneasy bravado. "Will you play to our delight again, Maria?" Carmine's voice, although soft, carried across the grandeur with the conviction of command, the subtle threat woven beneath as a velvet caress concealing iron. "Perhaps a requiem," Maria replied lightly, her tone nonchalant, deceptively serene against the undercurrent of tension. She began to play, her melody a gossamer thread threading through the room, sympathetic to none but the truth shrouded beneath silent witnesses. Her music beheld the tension spun between dangers unseen, and Maria's spirit sang defiantly amidst suitors of despair. It was a daring dance of shadows and light, her music undefined by the silent majority yet courageous in its simplicity. For every note crafted beneath her touch, a window opened to dreams unseen, potential realized across every shifted glance. Christian, orbiting close, lingered in Maria's vicinity, offering nothing more than a nod shared by those accustomed to veiled alliances crafted beneath shared shrouds of destiny. They were dancing on the edge of a knife, aware that each note ushered decisions, unraveled promise from duplicity, blending fear with defiance. "Can you keep your balance in this charade, dear Maria?" Christian whispered, his question both challenge and assurance encapsulated. "I already walk the tightrope, Christian." Her voice, soft beneath the clamor of crescendos, carried assurance that dared betray uncertainty. For a moment, time suspended like the breath unknowingly held, intentions coalescing within the spectral livery hands wrought beneath. Pressure escalated as the revelation wound forward, shedding veils for Stella to wander unbidden, placing agents with unknown allegiances among guests masquerading hidden intrigues. With the twisting path of crescendo resumed, Maria's symphony submerged truths. Carmine's empire whispered collapse into shadows, trajectories poised on precipice, whispering dissonance, yearning harmony. Resounding and unfamiliar silhouette entered her periphery. An emissary offered Luca's missive, urging vigilance against storms brewed in victory's wake. "I don't want to destroy." Maria's words wavered, holding hope laced with constraint. Yet she knew storms often traversed paths of silence. The music swelled into question, a challenge flickering amidst dueling crescendosa, preliminary to defiant culmination shadowed by the promise of truth once unfettered. Maria's fingers hesitated audibly before committing, voices rippling unease upon facades. As the crescendo built, the music clamoring against the ballroom's expectations, the envelope slipped again from Maria's grip, and with it, a key tumbled into view, its metallic surface catching the ethereal glow. whispering of paths untaken. Time ceased against the kaleidoscope, turning fruition and foundation to ruin. Do you even know what you've started? Christian's tone shimmered, an echo rebounding like a muted symphony through deceit-bounded halls. Beneath spirals of rose petals caught in the wind, Maria whispered, perhaps to herself, "It was never anything else but a melody yet unwritten." And with those words, the years unraveled, threading certainty where shadows dared descent. Their saga breathed as whispers entwining against their whispered fate, the promise of a dawn they could feel balanced upon the edge of unfamiliar silence. With that thought, the silence reverberated once more, a fleeting shadow escaping to becoming. Dagger gleamed beneath candescent eaves, poised by a yet unseen hand, in fleeting embrace of possibilities undreamt. The high-pitched ring of a gunshot punctuated the room as the chandelier showered glass around them, reflecting fractured rainbows that tore through the air like spectral blades. Maria gasped, a sharp intake of breath summoning a searing awareness beneath her fevered pulse. Each shard mirrored the chaos of swirling shadows amidst the grandeur, embodying the symphony of danger and revelation. Her brow glistened with perspiration, testament to the internal maelstrom she struggled to tame. The very air seemed charged with electricity, braiding itself through the tension that kept every heart suspended in their chests. A hush fell, curious eyes narrowing as they turned towards the unnoticed pianist, whose presence had orchestrated secret harmonics throughout the night. Dedicated scrutineers hovered, figures cloaked in silken darkness, hung on the precipice between suspicion and forgotten murmurs of music. In this fabricated Eden, Maria appeared ethereal, encapsulated in velvet whispers and candlelit hope. The shadowed fringes of her modest white dress whispered against the floor, casting spectral reflections in their wake. But the thunderous heartbeat resonating within was hers alone to confront, a clutching fear interwoven with determination, daring to grasp a melody she had not yet composed. Maria had harbored her allegiance to the shadows, flourishing against the backdrop of grandeur sewn with gilded chains. The pinstriped masses watched with a brewing hunger, the air disturbingly reverent, a congregation yearning for an ode yet unknown. An altered harmony swirled around them, vibrance casting its transformative veil. Carmine waited, his statuesque visage a mask concealing unraveling secrets. Maria's throat tightened as the gaze of power unraveled her facade layer by layer, straining against the pull of destiny that wove through silent chords and clandestine notes. But a smirk stretched across her lips, defiance dormant no longer. "Seek the truth when shadows spill their secrets," Carmine observed, his intonation laced with curiosity, igniting ripples of anticipation. In response, Maria's fingers drifted over the keyboard, coaxing strains so delicate they unraveled silk with steely grace, dancing melodies accentuating the room's decorum. From the ensemble of tones arose a singular, resonant fragmenta, beacon guiding the lost within their darkness-woven halls. Christian's sleek silhouette invoked perceptions of an enigma turned particulate, his prowl inching nearer, parallel to expectation. A performance demanded clarity, yet every voice remained hushed in awe, displaced by the haunting sinfonietta she curated. The reveal hinged upon the cusp of finale's unyielded, lucid gleam inhabiting her unwavering resolve. Each descent of fingers delivered authority from the unknown, orchestrating defiance inspired by unscripted freedom. Finally, a movement shattered pretense, a gesture Carmine had cultivated but dared not defy, provoking misplaced hubris. The barrage of notes split despair into embers, sparks kindled in individuals finding courage amidst Maria's mutinous anthem. The resulting clarity had ambled forth, crackling beneath Carmine's steel veneer, intruding upon the comfort of omnipotence. His smile waned, fading into mystification, challenged by the sovereignty perceived through Maria's orchestration. "An unexpected symphony," he mused, voice marinated in suspicion, eyes holding the storm she summoned. With fingers splayed, Maria summoned farewell to the instrument that cradled her dreams, the quiet power interlaced upon each key written into fate's narrative. This edifice, wrapped in duplicity, transformed into an amphitheater where illusions dared not linger. Her truth resonated, an ephemeral gift transcending material constraints, reverberating against echoed eternity found within sightless eyes. Each chord relinquished orchestral sovereignty, uplifting the room's captive hearts longing for confession. But before time-rooted immortality, an elegant form disrupted the aura of partner embracing Maria's mirrored secrets. Vittorio emerged, issuing his vigil unwavering with shadow and sunlight bathing in assurance hidden within. Let the night pass as dawn's symphony nears. His words tickled the harrowing crescendo into a promise sprawled across destiny's parchment. A legacy unbound, celestial muses awakening to melodies unseen, obscurity's mantle surrendered by revelation. Slipping from the ballroom's hold, fresh lenses bathed in turmoil encircled Maria's aspirations. Yet, this tale interwoven into the evening's heart refused to diminish in its vigor. Driven by deliverance promised in melodies wrought from endurance, Maria challenged the dusk and unfolded symphony into liberties untouched. With an unreadable glance cast back to those choosing introspection, Maria ventured into wind-animated gardens, a realm whispering memory, softened reflections of cherished absence. The braided path awaited with beckoning urgency, unfurling amidst radiant stars gifting resonance. Such was the vanishing theater's price, for unmasking deceit owned no reparation but understanding. In art's embrace, Maria contemplated solitary desires, an unvoiced breath coursing where notes once diverged upon ether's wick. With each ethereal departure, possibilities swept beyond the shadows, awaited beyond imagination's veil. The encounter dared recede as an insubstantial wraith whispering, imposed within a hymn's flotilla interludes, above resonance born from might and purpose. And then came the harrowing echo of intention, the conjecture inhaled, heavy within the scaled recesses and hollows of hearts disclosed. Amidst swirling uncertainties, Maria's voice aligned syncopation, elusive yet serene within whispers. It resonated along lattices dreamt beneath shadows sigh. Will you dare question the silence once the notes end?